Well, welcome back to another one of our Axopar videos. I'm Mia from Freedom Marine, and today Alex and I are going to actually go on a little bit of an adventure, and we're headed out from Cole Harbour, Vancouver, off to the Gulf Islands and crossing the Strait of Georgia.
So we are on our way down to South Pender Island, over to Poets Cove in Bedwell Bay. And to get there, we are using our charts to make a route, and that makes it a lot easier for us to navigate there. So right now I've set myself up with a starting point and an end point as to where I want to go on the chart. And there is a video on this, so you guys can look at the link below and have a look at that video of how to make routes and tracks on your charts. But right now I've made this line, and then I'm going to go ahead and say easy routing button and then entire route. And we need to absolutely review that path and make sure that it is indeed free of obstructions and it is the safest way to get there. So we're going to make a couple of edits to that and just make sure it is safe, but this is how we're going to get there.
Awesome. Then off we go out of Cole Harbour, out to Bedwell Harbour.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so as promised, I'm going through this this route that I've just created using the easy routing feature, and I've had to make a couple of edits. You always do. One thing of note right here is that it has got us going right through the middle of a killer whale protection exclusion zone. This is somewhere which, if you have a look at the chart and bring up the actual information and follows the notice to mariners, it'll actually tell you that this area is not for boating in. So I have to go ahead and move my route out of here to make sure that we do not traverse through this exclusion zone. By yourself, definitely get this done before you leave the dock.
So I know there's a few ways to cut across the Strait of Georgia going to... what's the difference and why do people choose different ways to go?
To get across the Strait of Georgia here and then down into the Gulf Islands, you really have these two main options right here. Right here, Active Pass is the biggest, most popular way to go. It is where most of the ferries go through. But there is another pass down here called Porlier Pass. And this is something that you could do because it is a shorter run across the strait. Because sometimes you can come through this Porlier Pass and it's nice and calm on the inside. You would make your judgment call either before you left based on weather, if you knew that it was going to be a little lumpy, or you could actually, once you're out there, you could change your mind and say, you know what, I'm getting beaten up pretty good here, but I still want to continue. It's still safe to do so. However, I'm going to decrease the amount of time that I'm going to be crossing the strait. I'm going to change direction and maybe head for Porlier instead. So you can make judgment calls like that on the fly to try and make your trip a little bit more comfortable.
I've got a pop-up on my screen that says, would you like to start Mercury Auto Pilot? What does that mean?
Yeah, so this is going to come up every time you select the route and engage it. Just before it actually fully engages, it'll ask you this if you have a boat equipped with joystick piloting. And the joystick over there is a pretty obvious sign that that's indeed what we have here. If we hit the start button, then the engines will basically turn themselves and it'll take over the steering of the vessel for you. So you won't have to steer the boat, but you will still need to maintain a lookout.
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Notice while you were setting all the waypoints that it's starting to get a bit toasty in the cabin. Did you turn on the heater or something?
Yeah, I certainly did. So one of the nice things about all these enclosed cabin Axopars that Freedom Marine are selling is that pretty much all of them is going to have one of these Webasto heaters on board. So they're great for just keeping warm and toasty, but if it happened to be raining out, because this is an all year round type of boat, right? I find the Webastos are a fantastic thing to turn on right at the beginning of your trip, especially if you're walking inside the cabin out of the rain, because you're going to have moisture and rain stuck to your clothing, and they're going to come inside with you, and all that rain is going to, want to evaporate off your clothes, and it's going to want to stick to the insides of your windows. So I would say it's almost a must if you have a Webasto heater to make sure it's fired up and keeping the cabin toasty on a rainy day. But we don't have that. We have an overcast day today. No rain, but it's still nice and warm regardless.
It is. I love it. All right, Alex. So I know every time before we leave the dock, there's a list of things that we should definitely go through before untying and going off to our trip.
Yeah.
So what are some of these items?
There's actually a great app already baked into the Axopar displays. So if we have a look down here, we can actually pull up a list on the Axopar screen I'll back out of that so you can see that one more time. There's some cool stuff in here, but one of them is actually the checklist that actually comes up. So let's just go through here and talk about each one of these things. So the weather, there's plenty of online resources that you can check to make sure the weather is indeed be conducive to your trip and going to make it safe. We've gone through our safety gear, and included in that safety gear is of course our life jackets. The next one on the list here is lights. So we went through and we checked that all of our navigation lights are working. We're just traversing during the daylight hours. However, you never know. You always want to make sure your nav lights are working before you leave the dock. So check on that. Fire extinguishers. Yes, we definitely have our fire extinguishers on board. We've checked those. Next on the list is build pumps. We've checked that. And then we have battery and fuel, tools and supplies, and we've checked for any engine messages. So yes, the batteries are working. They were not flat. We didn't have any issues with them. Why would that be something we need to think about? Well, if your battery is looking like it's weak and you've been on a shore power charger and you're going somewhere that doesn't have shore power, are you going to be confident that that battery can start your engine again? So if you find that you've unplugged your boat and the voltages are tanking, then that's something to really take note of. It's like, well, is this engine going to start again, right? Pretty rare occurrence, but that's why it's on the list of things to check. Fuel. Well, we definitely checked our fuel when we found that we were definitely left wanting.
A good thing we did.
A good thing we did, because we wouldn't have made it to our destination with the fuel that we had in the boat before we left. But we are fueled up and ready to go. And tools and supplies, I like to carry some basic stuff with me, just in case I have to make any running repairs or anything like that along the way. You never know what you're going to run into when you're out there. So yeah, and then the engine messages, we didn't have any alarms or any codes, so mechanically I think we're pretty good to go there.
It looks like we're about to hit this little circle on our route. So what is that and what happens then?
Okay, so that is referred to as a waypoint, or more specifically, it's actually called a route point because it's part of a route. So if you are engaged in active autopilot, which we are, as you know, the boat is, being controlled by the computer, by the autopilot computer. When we hit that route point, it will change direction automatically. It will give you an audible beep, and that joystick over there will flash. You don't need to interact with it at all. However, when it does do that, know that the direction of the vessel will change immediately.
At 33 knots for us, at a mild turn like this.
A mild turn, I think we're going to be just fine. Okay, any moment now. There it is. And we are turning. Okay.
That was really smooth.
Wasn't so bad, right?
Wasn't bad at all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, we still need to maintain a lookout, but I think this was a pretty successful little test. Okay, Mia, so, we've been on autopilot and it's been very successfully taking us exactly where we wanted to go, but we've run into a couple of things that we've had to avoid along the way.
Yes.
What are some of the things you've seen?
Well, I've seen porpoises, a couple of logs.
Wildlife logs, right?
And some buoys.
Yes, I'm pretty sure you did a big turn around a crab pot there. Yeah, which was great. So I just want to double down on the fact that although the autopilot is in control and is taking you a straight line to where you want to go, there's always going to be some stuff in the water that you're probably going to need to break free from autopilot to avoid. And talking of which, what's going on right now?
We've got a BC ferry right in front of us, so the best thing to do is probably break free from the autopilot and just go off course a little bit.
Yeah, maybe around the back. He is actually moving quite
Decent
quickly.
speed.
Yeah.
Although the autopilot is great, I think it's really important that we don't forget to keep our eyes out on the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to re-engage the autopilot. You got your control over there.
And back onto outer route we go.
Okay, so maybe this is something important to point out. Because we didn't veer so far off course, re-engaging the autopilot did make a pretty aggressive turn back to get back on course, right?
It did.
Yeah, so I think that's something definitely to keep in mind and to watch out for. Re-engaging could take you on a pretty sharp angle back to your course.
We're at about 30 knots, but I felt completely okay with it.
Yeah.
I think any faster than that, it might be a bit of a surprise to some of the people on board.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe the takeaway from that is if you're engaging autopilot, to get back on track, or you're doing sharp turns like we mentioned once already, maybe just do a speed check. You know, have to think about whether the speed's going to be appropriate for that kind of a turn. All right, Mia, so looks like we've got 22 nautical miles to go. We're about 1/3 of the way across the Strait of Georgia on our way into Active Pass, and it just kind of got me thinking, there's so much more to do in the Gulf Islands than the place we're going. Do you have any favorite spots?
Yeah, so like you said, there's so much to do in the Gulf Islands. And today we're going into southern Gulf Islands. So we've got Pender, which has North Pender, South Pender. But one of my personal favorites that I've been to a few times is Salt Spring. Mm-hmm. So have you heard of Ganges Harbor?
I have, and I have been there a few times actually. I really love the kind of eclectic atmosphere happening at Ganges. Lots of cool markets and fun shops and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So Ganges in the summer, every Saturday they have a Saturday market. There's a lot of local artists on Salt Spring, and there's a lot of different galleries that are walking distance. The great thing about Ganges is that there's multiple marinas that you can stay at on your boat. So there's Salt Spring Marina, there's Ganges Marina, and if you're staying there, everything's pretty much walking distance. If you want, you can rent a scooter, you can rent a car. There's cideries. There's, believe it or not, there's actually a cheese factory on the island.
Is that right?
Yeah, they do like little tours, and it's super fun.
Nice. And the float planes also go into there, right? Like right into Ganges Harbor?
Yep. So you've got Harbor Air. They've got a designated dock in the Ganges Harbor. So if you wanted to fly in, or you know, if you tie up your boat there for a few days and then fly out and then fly back in, that's completely
Well, you
doable.
could have your guests fly in, or potentially you could bring guests with you, but you weren't ready to leave. They could just fly right out of there, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Okay, so today we're going to Bedwell Harbor, which is in South Pender Island.
Okay.
And South and North Pender Island, they're connected by this little waterway. And it's quite narrow, but if you have a shallow draft boat, you can go through the waterway, and there's a little bridge.
At any tide or just at certain tides?
I would not go at very low tides. If you have like a small tender off the back of your big boat and you want to go at low tide, that's fine. But in an Axopar, we just want to make sure that there's enough draft in the water for us to get through.
Yeah. All right. Not taking any risks.
Yeah, don't take risks.
Yes. Okay.
Look at your charts.
Yes. Check the charts.
But if you go through there, you actually come out, and really close by is Port Browning Marina.
Okay.
So that's located on North Pender, and they've got a pub there. They've got some glamping, which is super nice.
Oh.
If you're going in onto the other side of North Pender, you can actually get into Otter Bay Marina, and that's also where BC Ferry goes in. So there you'll find a lot more, restaurants, little shops. There's a golf course. There's plenty of hiking, and the hiking is pretty good on the island. So there's a few places where you can go up and get a really good vantage point and see across all to the different islands. And then there's also a really neat disc golf park.
Oh, love disc golf. It's taken off. It's taken the Vancouver area by storm. I know that. Got quite a few friends into disc golf right now.
Yeah, if you're into disc golf, you'll have to check out the one in South Pender. It's I've been there. It's a pretty difficult course because you're in like the woods.
Right, lots of trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, those ricochet shots are a little frustrating sometimes, but hey, that's disc golf, right?
So far, I'm seated pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
I have a really good vantage point from where I'm seated to see everything. Like, I don't feel like the bow is riding up, and I don't feel like I need to, stretch my neck up to see if there's anything in front of me. And that's one of the biggest advantages that I find on an Axopar.
As a passenger, I can definitely relate to the perfect 360-degree views all around us. There's nothing we can't see from this spot. Axopar make flat riding boats, and this 45 is no exception to that. We are riding extremely stably through the water. We're doing 35 knots, and I gotta say, like, I don't feel like I'm going 35 knots.
Right?
It's very...
It feels too quiet to be doing 35 knots.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a little bit of swell rolling through here, but we've got a reasonably good day, all things considered. But yeah, I'm extremely impressed with how stable and steady and comfortable we've been so far.
Same here. And on the 45, one other thing that I really love is, I mean, it's two of us right now seated, but we could have someone else, another person. So
Yep.
for example, if you're going out with your family, you could have, you know, your kids up here with you, your wife and a kid, and it's not, you're not having to pick and choose who gets to sit in the front.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of seating, and behind us there's a lot more seating, and they don't miss out on seeing what we're seeing as far as the 360-degree views. They can see it all from the back seat as well. So I don't think you're missing out on that if you didn't happen to be in this front row.
This is a question that I've had for a little while. So this boat has 3 motors,
Yes.
but there's only 2 controls.
Right. Yes.
So how does that work?
Yeah, so is a third motor even active right now? How do we know? Well, this is something that Mercury calls shadow mode. So the center engine will engage if both the control sticks or the outside engines are engaged in the same direction.
I see.
Yes, so if you happen to pull back to neutral and you were doing some sort of a spin on the spot, you had one forward and one backwards,
Yeah.
that center engine would actually stay out of gear.
Okay.
And it would not engage at that point. But your outside engine on the starboard side would go forward in this particular case, and the port side would go, you know, aft, and then you would start spinning on the spot. But if they both went backwards, then all 3 of them would actually engage in reverse, and same with forwards. So that's how that works. All right, well, thanks for finally letting me drive, Mia. So I'm feeling like I'm in a little bit of a point and shoot mode or heading hold mode right now. I'm just going to pretend like we didn't set up the Mercury Auto Pilot route, and we just are in a long, large stretch of water, and all I want to do is have it just hold my heading in a straight line. So you don't have to do the route mode, you can just do a heading hold mode.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just going to try that out.
And so if you're in heading hold mode,
Yeah.
and you want to change the heading slightly, how would you do that?
Haha, okay, so on top of this joystick over here, and now it's identified that I'm in a heading hold mode, so it actually says the word heading, but it also has 1 degree port, 10 degree port, 10 degree starboard, and 1 degree starboard indicators all around the joystick here. And I can actually adjust my heading just slightly on the fly. So right now I'm thinking, you know what? I like this heading, but I wish I was going just a little bit more to starboard. I'm looking out at this ferry. We might just converge at some point in the future. So I'm just gonna go maybe 3 degrees to starboard, and that's the only adjustment I wanna do. So 1 degree increments would be a 1, 2, 3. I count those out, I listen for the beeps. That's 3 degrees, and I can feel the slow 3 degree creep to starboard. If I wanted to make a pretty aggressive turn, let's just say I wanted to just turn 10 degrees, I would do a twist of the joystick. So a twist to starboard, of course, is a turn to starboard, and vice versa for port. So let's just do that, and you'll see that we'll take a more aggressive turn at 10 degrees, and I can stack them as well. So if I say wanted to just stay in heading hold and use it to like turn a corner, I can actually just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and it would do a 40 degree turn to the starboard. So if you're doing that, obviously it's going to be pretty gnarly. So you want to be pretty confident that that's exactly what you want to do. But let's give that a go and just see what that looks like. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. So as you can see, that's a 40 degree turn to starboard. Pretty aggressive. We are going pretty fast, but it's flattening me out, and I'm now back on course.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was probably a pretty good idea because ferry was heading straight at us, and we really needed to change course anyway.
That was very useful. All right, so we are just outside of North Pender Island right now. So on our port side is North Pender Island. And we're about to cross that area where we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
where there's actually a no boat zone. So that's actually issued by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, and it's to protect oh, there we go,
Hey.
Autopilot.
Okay.
And what it does is it's to protect this resident southern killer whales and their
Southern resident killer whales.
Southern-
I think South resident or southern resident.
southern. But there are killer whales that call this area their home.
Yes.
And we're doing everything we can to try and protect them. Right now, as you can see from our chart, we are staying well off the red dotted line, which is where the area begins.
Very clearly marked on the chart, and as you can see, we took the time earlier to make sure that our autopilot route did actually take us around that zone. So we just did a turn, a nice big wide turn around it. We're not going to get pulled over today.
Not today.
At least not for this.
Not for this. So we're pulling into Bedwell Harbor, where Poets Cove Marina and Resort is, and we've slowed down. And as you can probably hear, we've got our VHF on, and we're about to call into the marina for our slip assignment.
Yeah, so this is pretty standard practice here to do this. I'm still on 16 because I was out in the bay there, but now I'm in here in the harbor. I'm going to switch to channel 66 Alpha, which is generally what most of these marinas are communicating on. So there's a lot of confusion actually around 66 Alpha and how to get there on these VHF handsets on these Axopars. So I'm just going to do a really quick recap on how to do that. If we just go up through the stations up to 66, you'll see that once we get to 66, we can't actually get to 66 Alpha from here. We have to keep going north of those numbers, and we're going to go into a set of Alpha channels, and they're going to be indicated by a little 10 right in front of it. So if we go to channel 1066, that will then put us on 66 Alpha, and then we can make our call through to Poets Cove Marina. Poets Cove Marina, Poets Cove Marina, Poets Cove Marina, Axopar 45, Axopar 45, arriving and looking for a slip assignment, please.
Slip 2929, confirming you're with Freedom Yachts.
Correct, with Freedom Yachts. Slip 29, will that be a
Stern
in, starboard tie?
Roger, copy. Inside between our dock and customs.
Okay, copy that. Axopar 45 out.
Set up for a stern in,
starboard tie. Okay.
Slightly under 2 hours later, after leaving the fuel dock, we are here at Poets Cove Resort and Marina. And I think we had a really smooth ride through the Strait of Georgia, through Active Pass, got to see some ferries. Alex, thank you for taking us through some of the systems on the boat and how to operate and how to navigate. That was awesome. And for the next couple days, we're spending a little bit of time in the Gulf Islands. So if you like our videos, please remember to like and subscribe and follow us for more videos to come.